the exact same. And I'll go straight to it. I will introduce our speaker. So Felicia is a current PhD candidate at the Walter and Eliza Hall Institute of Medical Research and is currently researching the immune response to several infectious diseases using mathematical modeling and code. And I sit next to her, and she's amazing and an expert speaker for today. So I would love everyone to give Felicia a warm welcome. And it's here for you. Oh gosh. Oh, no. There we go. Awesome.
Wait, we get rid of the recording. Oh, yeah. Thank you.
Let's do that. Beautiful. And you can move this however you want.
Sweet.
Good.
Okay. So as Dione said before, thank you for joining us, everyone online and everyone in person, to hear about Git for version control and also collaboration. So the first question I want to ask, if I can find my mouse here. Okay, it's not going. There we go. Okay. How many of us have experienced this? You are editing a document or something, you're sending it back and forth, the file names are just all over the place. Still trying to find. My mouse is completely gone.
No, it's there.
It's there.
How-
It's very small.
How can I get it on here, the laptop?
It's going to come through. Oh, I see.
There we go. Yeah, I want to get rid of that.
This can also be like that.
Sweet.
And you
Okay.
can also place point on.
Okay, I think all the tech issues are finally done now. So I think we can all relate to this and we can all kind of agree it is not the best practice for keeping track of our documents or edits that are being made. So that's kind of what we want to be doing with this presentation today. We want to be introducing you to a new idea if you haven't heard of Git and GitHub, and kind of a bit more of an understanding of how these things work and how they can benefit you. So the aim for today is that you will walk away with confidence in your code, because you'll know that you're keeping track of it really well. So if you make a really big mistake, you can always go back to before you made the really big mistake. So that'll give you more confidence to code freely. A better understanding of the current tools that exist, because there are lots of different tools out there, and maybe this is one you're not familiar with, and that's why you are here for this talk today. And also to improve your skills when it comes to coding and improve how you can collaborate with other people. So there are some important notes for this talk, the most important one being that this is not going to be an in-depth tutorial, because there are so many different ways to use Git and GitHub. So what I'm going to present today is kind of the I don't know, the most native way to do it, using like your terminal on your computer, but there's GitHub Desktop, there's integrated Git on R, there's so many different ways to use this. So what I want to emphasize for this talk is giving you a better intuitive understanding of it, so it doesn't seem so scary and you can walk away feeling confident to look up tutorials or to go to workshops to actually start integrating it into your work. This is an R ladies talk, so all of the examples will be focused on using R, but you can obviously use this for any other programming languages. I'm pretty sure any programming language. And it also uses content from two websites. The first one is Git is my lab book. So that was developed by a colleague at WeHi and a researcher at the University of Melbourne. Very good step-by-step tutorial to setting up Git, using it, using GitHub, and also the software carpentry website for people learning Git. So I'm just going to leave this up for like 2 more seconds in case people are copying the URLs. At the end of the talk, I can get this back up as well, and we'll move on. So first of all, what actually is version control? version control is a systematic way to record changes to a file. This can be code, this can be a Word document. A lot of different programs and apps have this built in already. And the best way to think about it is it's a way to record your progress. So, like when you're playing a video game and you hit different checkpoints in the video game, you save your progress and you can see how far you've come. Version control is a very similar thing. And one of the most important things it is that it allows you to restore a file to a previous version. So, like I mentioned before, if there's ever a time where you're doing something and you make a really big mistake and you don't know where the mistake is, and you remember 2 days ago your code was working fine or your Word document was exactly how you wanted it, you can always go back to that previous version. So there are, like I said, apps that already integrate version control. If you use Microsoft Word and if you have it on, I think it needs to be on OneDrive to have version control. You open a document and you'll see on the right-hand side all the different versions that you've had from different saving at different times. If you're collaborating with people, you can track changes and see what they do. If anyone here uses Overleaf, Overleaf has also the same concept of version control, different changes you make to the document, and it will also highlight where it is. So how do we actually do this when it comes to code? The answer for that is Git. So what actually is Git? Now we're kind of going in a bit of a circle because Git is a version control system. So it's often pre-installed on Mac OS and it's also native on Linux, but it needs to be installed on Windows. So if any of you online or in person own a Mac, you already have Git set up on your device. Unfortunately for Windows, I don't know how to do that, so I can't be of any help there. So the term you may have heard a lot more other than Git is GitHub. So what actually is GitHub? It is an online server to store your files that are based on Git. You don't need to use GitHub to use Git because there are other online servers that exist that you can store your files that you're making changes with Git, such as GitLab and Git. But for this presentation, I'm going to be focusing on the integration of Git with GitHub. So how do these come together, Git and GitHub? We're going to play a little game. We're going to play the Git game because I heard an analogy of using Git being kind of like playing a game, and I found it really intuitive. So I'm going to try my best to pass on that intuitive explanation to you. So, as with any game, we need to actually start the game for the first time. Now, I'm starting at a point that assumes you have already set up Git yourself on your computer. So first thing you need to do is you need to create an R project. And if you're not sure how to do that, you go to File, in R, you create a new project. And this is really important because this is the place where everything is going to be put for your Git repo. So you name it, you place the directory. R gives you an option to automatically create a Git repository, but I'm going to show you how to do it in the terminal so you can see what each of these steps actually do, because if you're pressing buttons in R, you don't actually know what the buttons are doing. So just to give a quick explanation, what a repo is short for repository, and it's pretty much a place where everything is stored. And something you might not have noticed, but at the beginning of the video, if I can go back to the video, is it going to play? Okay, so at the beginning of this video, I want you to pay attention to up here. You see environment, history, connections, and terminal. And I want you to see if you notice anything differently after we create the R project. Give it just a moment. Does anyone notice anything different in that corner right there? Ahmad. There's Git there. This is another example of how Git is already integrated into R. But again, I'm not going to go through that with you. I'm pointing that out. So if you walk away from this and you say, the way she's doing it in these videos is too difficult, I want to try do it through R's way, you can go and do it that way. So after setting up an R project, you'll then have a file that you're doing your work in, and you can see here that I have my directory of where my R project is in documents, and I called it the Git game. And I have the R project and an R markdown file. So when we're actually pressing play and we're starting the game, what we need to do is we need to initialize and start a repo. So remember, a repo is a repository. Repository is where everything is stored. And it's very easy. It's like two commands. You say git init to initialize the repo, and you're done. You've initialized it. However, we have only created a repository on our laptop. So it's not on GitHub, it's not on anywhere else, it is only on the laptop. And obviously, we don't want to be keeping files in only one place. That is not very good practice. Before we can actually put it on GitHub, though, if we're starting our game brand new, we need to first mark it to save. So the first thing we do is we say git add. So this is called staging a commit, and then we're committing and adding a message. So all of this jargon at the bottom here, you don't really have to pay attention to that. A lot of that can actually be ignored through a file called git ignore. What it's showing you is just everything that has changed from the last time you saved, which we haven't saved at all yet, to now when you are saving. And you can see at the top, I'm writing my message that is going to be associated with this save. So staging a commit is when you say, I want to save this thing. The commit itself is when you're adding a comment to that save. So again, going back to our video game analogy, imagine if you're playing a game and like you spend an entire day going over the mountain and collecting a sword or something. And when you finally save your game, you're saying, this is everything I did in that day when I was playing. That is what the git add and the git commit is. So how do we then actually put this on GitHub? So first you need a GitHub account. So I'm going to assume at this point, everyone's got a GitHub account. And one of the most difficult parts when it comes to using Git in GitHub is you need to link your Git on your laptop with your GitHub account. Something that I've heard someone describe this as that I really like is called, you need to do the secret handshake between your laptop and GitHub so that it trusts that you are the user and you can be easily transferring things in between. So this is an example of my GitHub. I don't have a lot of repos because, yeah, I don't have a lot of repos at the moment. And what we want to do is we want to create a remote repository. So this is where we're storing it online because, again, if we have important documents, we need to store them in several places. So what you do in GitHub, you literally just click a button that says add repo and you name your repository. It can be anything you want. And then you'll usually put a description because if you're saving multiple things, you want to be able to know just by looking at it what it contains. You can make it private, which is really important to some people because they want to be making their code public. You can add a README file, which is another kind of description. The git ignore, which I mentioned, it's like saying, I want you to ignore really sensitive data that I don't want anyone else to see, and Git will completely ignore it. And of course, you can put a license on it if you end up publishing it anywhere. And then this is what you get once you create that repo. You get two commands that exist, and those are the commands that you're going to use to link Git to GitHub and say, this is where I want you to put everything when it goes online. So think of it as we're now saving in multiple places. And what that looks like is literally just copying and pasting what was there before. And then you're done. And then once that is finished, and you go back to GitHub, your work, so that's just saying everything has been uploaded. And then if I go back to GitHub, you will see that all of my work is now on my account. Great. So if anything happens to my laptop and it's stolen, I can always get it online. So let's say we've been playing the game for a while. I started at this X over here and now I've traveled a bit and I'm like, I'm done for the day. I want to save my progress and go to bed. It's very easy. It is two commands, or three commands. So again, we git add, we say, I want to save this. Commit, we want to make our comment. What have we done during this time? So this is going to be really important because if it comes to wanting to restore to a previous file version, you want to be making very descriptive commit messages so you can be like, that is exactly where I need to go back to. I need to go back to before I cross the mountain in the game because I've made a really big mistake on the mountain. Some people, when they use make git commit messages, they just say update, and then you just end up with update, 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 update in all of your version history, and you have no idea what you actually did. Yes, sometimes that can be really tedious, but your future self will really thank you. So again, three commands: git add, git commit, and then the important one is git push. So git push is just saying everything I've just done on my laptop, send it to GitHub, make sure it's updated on GitHub. And if we go back, you'll see that on GitHub, there's the code, and in the corner, it will say history on the top right. And if you click history, you can see all the different versions that I've saved, and you can see those comments that I've associated with it. So again, your future self will thank you for being really specific and yeah, so that you actually know what's been happening. And then we have multiplayer mode. So I'm sure many of you are interested in using Git for things like collaboration. It doesn't necessarily have to be because you are sharing the code and you're both altering the code. Sometimes in a lab, people just all use the same code because it's a very specific function that they want to use. So all you need to do for that is you need to create a branch. And that again is one command to create a branch. And what that means is you're now working separately from anyone else that is on the same project. So you can make as many updates as you want and no one else will be affected. And what that actually looks like, to give you a bit more of an intuitive understanding. So whenever you start with Git and a project and you make your repository, your branch is always the main branch. And then if you're working with multiple people, so in the purple, Dione has joined the game with me, and you can see she's further behind than I am. I have my own separate branch. I'm doing my own thing. Dione has her branch and she's doing her own thing. And eventually I get to a point and I'm like, you know what? I've made a lot of progress in this game. And I think that I'm actually going to make this the main file of the game because I've made so many upgrades. I want everyone else to benefit from it. So what you then do is you can do something called merging the branches. So what that does is we had the original main branch. I had my branch. I went on my own little adventure, and then I merged with that old main branch to create a new one. But Dione is still on her own doing her own thing. But eventually she gets to a point and she's like, you know what? I kind of want to be where Felicia's at. She's made really good upgrades. She has a really cool sword that I also want. How can I just jump there and get to where she is? And that's where you can do something called a git pull. So that's where she can essentially take all of my code that I've just put as the main branch, and that is then her code. So that merges with her code, and she can be then where I am and travel down the map with me. What sometimes pooling is the same as is cloning. So You may have heard of Git cloning or Git pooling. So they're essentially both are copying someone else's code, but one of them, cloning, is when you are copying someone else's code as part of a repo you're not part of. And then pooling is when you're part of the same project with someone else and you just pull on their code. So, for example, I want to get from Stan. Let's pretend this is a new game. You copy the link from the actual GitHub and you just say git pull the GitHub site. And then that's going to take some time to download because it's a big file. Yeah, I should have chosen a smaller repo for this, but it doesn't matter. It'll get there. Okay, and then you can see in the lower corner, I've downloaded everything, and then I can open up any code I want from RStan and do what I want with it. Because it will never, because I'm not part of that repo, it will never be uploaded to that same GitHub site that the original game is at. So that allows you to kind of play other people's games or help on the same game with other people. So, what are actually the benefits to using Git for collaboration? I'm not sure how, if any of you are currently coding, I'm not sure how you are doing that with others. Maybe I'll actually ask that. Do any of you currently code with others on the same project?
Yep.
Yeah. And how do you share the code between each other?
This wonderful thing called SharePoint because I work for the government.
All right, so if anyone online didn't hear that, SharePoint is the answer to that. So obviously that's not ideal, because SharePoint doesn't really have version control, does it?
It does.
Oh, it does.
It's just very bad.
Just very bad. And I imagine you can't really make messages with what you're saving, right? Yeah. So what are the benefits to using Git for collaboration instead? So you can actually see what changes other people have made and learn from them. So if we go back to the example of me going on my journey and Dione is on the same game as me, if she's having trouble, going through the river or crossing the mountain as I did, and I'm making my commits, and remember, I'm making them very descriptive, she can actually learn what I did to overcome those challenges so she knows for future because she can see my code history. In other sites and stuff like SharePoint, you can't do that. You'll only see the changes in the code, but you won't get explanation as to why those are there. Another one is the ease of sharing. So when you're using GitHub, you don't have to worry about emailing back and forth and actually having to wait on someone to email you back for the updated code. What you can do instead is just pull whenever you want, just a Git pull, and you can see what the updated code is, Git push, and everyone can see it at once. You don't have to worry about emailing back and forth. And the other one is code reproducibility. So this is really important when it comes to, I'm sure, government work, because you're making reports that are going to very important people. In research as well, if you're publishing papers, people need to know that the results you've actually gotten from your code are reproducible and you'll get them again if you run the same code. It will also be easy for colleagues and everything to point out any mistakes that you have with your code so that you can go fix them. So incredibly important for maintaining kind of integrity in code and also giving you more confidence with it as well. So there are some very important key takeaways that I want you to have from this presentation. So the first one is that Git is a version control system, but GitHub is where you store your Git repositories. And as with anything, the most difficult thing with Git and GitHub is setting it all up. But I promise you, once it is set up, it is so easy because it's just the same commands over and over again. It's just that add, commit, push. Sometimes you might pull to get someone else's code. Otherwise, it's always add, commit, push. That's it, over and over again. The only tedious thing, like I said, is usually going to be writing those comments, especially if you've only made a very little change and you're like, what do I write? So yeah, starting is the hardest part. And again, there are loads of tutorials online that can help you with this. Just because I presented how to do this in a very specific way, it doesn't mean you have to do it in the same way. You don't have to be using Git through your terminal. If you find that really challenging, that is okay. You can try Git desktop, GitHub desktop to start off, and then you can work your way up. Try the Git in R. I've personally never done it. I've heard it's pretty easy. I'm not sure. Try that if you're finding it really difficult. The point is, it's very accessible. If you have any question, there will already be a Stack Overflow forum of someone asking the same question that you can just copy and paste to fix your issue. It's really just setting everything up. That is the really important part. Not sure where Dion has gone, but right. So does anyone have any questions about Git for version control, GitHub, anything in this talk? Huh? I don't know how to check online, to be honest. I purposely left some time in case there were questions for things. Do you know how to check the Zoom chat
Yeah.
in case there are questions?
Currently, no questions, but if you're on Zoom, just unmute and ask a question.
Oh, someone said it was difficult to see the black background. Someone requested to share slides link.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Mm. Well, yeah, if there are no questions, I kind of anticipated some people asking things about setting up and everything like that. But if there aren't any, I don't know if Dion, you'd like to advertise the next event or advertise a bit more for Our Ladies. Yeah, and if any questions pop up, I can just pop back up here and answer them.
Alrighty, so thank you, Felicia, again for like such an amazing talk. I learned a lot. And I'm sure if any more questions come up, we'll learn even more. I will just go to my slides. Oop. Well, it's actually a good segue. If you do have something you'd like to speak about, or if you know someone who is an expert in a topic, a female, woman, non-binary, or other gender minority, please let us know so they can give a seminar or a space to discuss what they would like to discuss, R related, of course, or anything adjacent, because that's what this community is trying to foster, that kind of open community. So in order to do that, you can scan that QR code where we have all of our links to everything. There's a form that you can fill out if you'd like to speak or do a presentation of any kind. Also stay tuned. So next month we're hoping to have a gathering of sorts. Everyone is included. We want to just grab drinks, grab food, and talk with each other. We can just meet other people in the community, in the coding community of any kind, specifically R nerds just like me, and everyone in this room kind of. So please join us. We will be giving the details for this event very shortly. So please stay tuned for our Slack and our Blue Sky and Meetup. Any of those will do. You don't have to do all three. That's all from us. We don't have any other questions in the Zoom, so we might just end it early. That's all right. Awesome. Thank you, everyone.